All right, hey guys, we're back with our last video on Simmel. So we're going to end kind of with his big issue, his big problem that he saw for people, which was the tragedy of culture. This idea that objective culture, our creations, come to dominate us, even though we are these beings that bear the life process, that transcend our normal fixed reality, even though that's in us. Increasingly it becomes difficult because our creations come to dominate us. But let's kind of take stock of where we've been. We started with Simmel has this three-tier understanding of social reality. Remember, he doesn't really believe in society so much as just interactions that happen. But it starts with the individual consciousness, us as these bearers of the life process, but also of people whose lives are understandable only in relation to each other. He's an interactionist, so interaction, not individual consciousness exists, but really it only makes sense in the context of interaction. Second tier are those interactions. We dealt with his forms and types and his social geometry. And then third level was these structures, what he called worlds. Again, this idea of kind of the clumping together of certain types of interactions, but the worlds then come to have a life of their own, and they impose on themselves in specifically how we organize our lives when we're in that world. Remember, we talked about the world of science as compared to the world of religion. Now we arrive at what it all means, and what it all means is this idea of the tragedy of culture, the ever increasing through history disparity between objective culture, what we've produced, and individual culture. He sometimes uses the term subjective culture, and so it's a dichotomy or contrast between objective, the stuff that's out there, and subjective, the stuff that's in here. And I don't know on the test if it will be individual or subjective, so kind of know both of these. It's subjective culture, or he sometimes refers to it as individual culture. And that disparity increases in the direction of objective culture. So one issue that we haven't talked about up to now is, and it's because it really it didn't exactly fit in his three-tier approach, is that he finds a major cause of this disparity in the modern world to be the division of labor. Now, the division of labor has upset a whole bunch of people up to now, and now it's going to upset Simmel. What he specifically focuses on is this idea of specialization. And so what you can think about, and there's an elegance to this. Specialization, if I were a person who had lived in every epoch of human history, I started out as a hunter-gatherer, I would have not been a specialist particularly. Yeah, I may have hunted rather than gathered, but I'm sure that I would have gathered as well. I would have been responsible for making camp. I would have been responsible for medical care. I would have been responsible for everything. I'm not specialized at that level. And then over the course of human history, especially when people catch on to Adam Smith's idea about creating a market economy through the division of labor, once we get there, then we start to become very specialized. But think about what Simmel is also saying is happening at the same time. The incredible creation through the economy of objective culture. So it's like, as our lives are shrinking into narrow and narrower focus. Remember, I'm a sociology teacher. I can't build a house. I can't farm. I can't make clothing. I can do almost nothing. I'm incredibly specialized. And at the exact same time, the world around me is just filled with objective culture. And what he says is that in the context of that just huge, vast array, my life starts to become meaningless. He says, my actions are lost in the totality of society. I'm just one little tiny piece. And there's a sense in a real way that my actions are meaningless. Now, ideally you're getting something out of this, but is the world going to stop if I suddenly retire from teaching sociology? Probably not, right? I mean, in a real way, my contribution is pretty meaningless, or at least vanishingly small to the point that it might as well be meaningless. Um, so those are my actions. That's what I contribute, and it's like nothing when you compare it to the vastness of the objective culture that we have. My interactions are increasingly, this is for him, increasingly specialized and impersonal, which makes sense, right? I have a personal relationship with my family, but then my relationship with you is very, very limited in terms of me putting up videos and reading the stuff that you do. That's incredibly impersonal. My relationship with the people at the grocery store where I go to shop, incredibly impersonal and specialized. I don't appreciate them in their full range of humanity. And he says that this is in part because of this just growth of objective culture. Oh, that is linked to the division of labor. And then our lives. So I've talked about my actions and my interactions. So what does life become? For Simmel, it becomes consumption of meaningless product after meaningless product in a world in which I am increasingly cynical, increasingly blasé. Like, that's what humanity has been. Humanity, this bearer of the life process, that's what we've been reduced to. It can be summed up as objective culture grows, individual culture, our ability to transcend diminishes. Freedom increases, like there's some benefits, but also alienation too. That's it. That's his tragedy of culture. I don't see a huge hope. I mean, the hope, I suppose, is that we are capable of transcending, but as of right now, according to Simmel, we are on this historical progression of every time we transcend, we create more that then exists in that objective culture that can dominate us. All right, that's it for Simmel. To sum him up, remember, what I've given you is a hopefully relatively elegant or at least logical progression from one video to the next, but that's not the whole of him. It doesn't summarize Simmel the way I summarized Weber or Durkheim or Marx. He wrote about fashion, he wrote about urbanization, he wrote a whole book on money, he wrote about strangers, he wrote about dyads and triads, lots and lots of stuff. So I have given you a not inaccurate selection of him, but it would be hard to summarize him even in a full week of videos. At his core, though, and I kind of feel like it's useful to boil things down this way. At his core is a paradox. We are bearers of the life process, that we have the capacity to transcend, but every time we do, we create the things that are going to come back and dominate us and make it harder to transcend the next day. What a depressing thought. All right, that's it for Simmel, though. I will be back in the next video, and we will talk about Thorstein Veblen.